circumstances beyond our control and evacuate the building. Not evacuate, not suffocate.
Yes, now time for the magic words. There is no expectation of privacy in the public.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Saturday night is all right for a stream, right? So, first of all, let me start by saying hello to all you wonderful people that came here to join me tonight. We got iKiss was here. She said I'll try to join, but I hope you're feeling better, iKiss. Internet God, hello. Kim Crawford, welcome. Cliff Hickson. All my regulars show up in the morning and at night. I love it. Chelsea May, Jim Hughes, Cliff Hickson, Art, Art Dash Union, hello. Love you, man. Joshua Lee, ATV Thunder. Thunder. Yes. Scott Ammo, hello. Welcome. What up, Playboy? Jim Hughes, Joshua Lee, Chelsea May, ATV Thunder, Benjamin Walther, David Prillo Jr. Yes, always here. K-Far, glad to see you. I don't remember if I already told you. I'm sorry about the last stream. I wasn't able to make it that night with you, but welcome. Glad to have you here always. Let's see. Jim Hughes, Kim Crawford, ATV Thunder, Dave Prillo, Scott Ammo, Debo's Nation. Hey, what's up? Welcome. Good to see you. All right. So, a lot of stuff's been going on lately. Today, I kind of want to do something a little bit different. A lot of people have been covering this trial with Darrell Brooks, and I've been watching it very closely, and going back and forth with, I don't know, just different people, different ideas behind it. But the main reason I decided that I wanted to talk about it specifically is because I've been watching the whole thing, and what I'm seeing more and more as I watch it is this case is obviously, it's an extremely important case. This guy, for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, what's up, Nancy? Darrell Brooks is alleged to have, well, I mean, this happened, but whether or not he's the one who did it is what he's on trial for, right? So what happened was there was a Christmas parade in Wisconsin on November 21st, and a red SUV just drove through the parade, just mowing over people, children, old ladies, whatever, just killing people left and right, putting people in the hospital. Horrible disaster. And so they got this guy on trial now, Darrell Brooks. So far, it seems pretty obvious that he did it, but he keeps making these arguments in court, and it became very clear very early on that he's a sovereign citizen, and he's making all the sovereign citizen arguments. But the thing that I'm looking at, besides all the obvious stuff about why this is important, I think it's important specifically because when I've I've been on panels with some of these people, I've talked to some of these people, I've watched them talk, I've heard their stories or whatever. And one of the things that they love to do is they say, well, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, because we have our rights and jurisdiction and this and that and the other thing or whatever. But they're always talking about traffic citations, misdemeanors, right? Not having a driver's license, not having a license plate, getting pulled over for speeding, that didn't stop at a stoplight, whatever. It's always some little insignificant crap. And I always say, okay, but if your philosophy is true, if what you're saying is right, then what happens if you murder somebody or injure somebody? And then they'll always fall back on the, well, God gives us the right to not injure anyone, right? It's not, hurt, injury, or loss is different. Okay, so, but that's all, made up examples, just trying to say like, well, what if this happened in real life? It's like, well, yeah, but in real life, it's just traffic tickets and stuff, right? But this case is exactly real. This is real life. This is what happens when you take that sovereign citizen philosophy and use it in court in a real situation that involves something other than a minor traffic citation, right? He's still arguing that the court has no subject matter jurisdiction and the case needs to be dismissed. He objects to literally every question asked because he didn't give consent to ask those questions. He insisted that he go pro se, of course, and defend himself, but does not consent to receiving the documents from the court that he needs for discovery to be able to defend himself properly. He says that, what was the other thing? Subject matter. The idea that the state can't be a plaintiff, right? And again, you always hear these arguments from people when they're talking about a minor traffic ticket, and it's just like, okay, this guy's just saying stupid crap in court. But now here's somebody who's on trial for multiple murders. He's got 77 counts on him that he's on trial for, and he's using the same arguments. He's saying, well, the state can't be a plaintiff, because that was always the example I would use. When I was talking to these guys or trying to make a point, I'd say, look, if you murder someone, the person you murdered can't come to court to testify against you because they're dead. And it's like, oh, yeah, but that's just an example. But this is it. This is real. And this is what this guy's saying. He's like, well, the state itself isn't the victim, so they can't, they have no right to accuse me of anything. So this, to me, is obviously not to underline or make less important all of the stuff with the victims and the families and the horror of what happened and all that, but also on the level of what I do when I come on here all the time and talk about why these guys are wrong and why this is a dangerous philosophy to try and sell on the internet, because idiots like this guy are going to see these videos and read these things and think, oh yeah, cool, now I could just take my SUV and just mow over everybody, and then they have to just let me go because I declared that I'm a sovereign citizen and they have no jurisdiction over me because I'm a sovereign. He does the all caps argument too. Every time the judge says his name, he goes, oh, I don't accept that name, that's all caps, that's not me. Like, dude, you're applying a stupid scam invented to get out of having to pay traffic tickets and trying to use it in a murder trial. This guy is so insane. And the judge is doing her best she's trying to let him, mouth off his nonsense. I guess the idea is, um, I'm going to let him just dig his own hole, right? Bury himself with his own words. But, she's objection overruled, objection overruled. And it got to a point where he was, the whole thing with him saying that the state itself cannot be the plaintiff has gotten to the point where he has made that every single witness he has asked, do you see the state in this courtroom? Have you ever met the state? Have you ever sat in, well, he says the plaintiff. Have you ever met the plaintiff? Have you ever talked to the plaintiff? And he's been doing that so much that the judge has now ordered that he's not even allowed to bring that up anymore because it's always overruled and it's always a moot point. Of course, the state can prosecute a murderer because the victim is dead. They can't prosecute you. Duh. Oh, man. Yes, it's exactly it. You're right, Jim. That's what makes it unique. It's. Oh, yeah. And the understand thing, too. He did that. Like, whenever they ask him if he understands, no, because I don't stand under your authority. I don't stand under you. And another thing about this guy that drove me nuts, two. I guess technically three, but two of them are related. So if you haven't been following the case that closely, what happened was he came out and he said, okay, I am putting in a motion to move the trial because I think I might have COVID and I just took a COVID test and I'm waiting for the results. So on Friday, well, first of all, the judge orders to go ahead with the trial anyway. So his results come in and they're negative. So when he finds out that he doesn't have COVID, he starts crying. And he's crying in court because he can't believe that he doesn't have COVID. And then he gets in a fight saying that, he can't do this or do that or whatever. But then he starts saying, I have a cut on my arm. You have to move the trial over so I could go get medical attention on the cut. And he's pointing at his arm. And there's like a teeny, tiny little nothing right there. And eventually they put a Band-Aid on it. But first of all, he doesn't comprehend anything. The guy's an idiot. In fact, I don't, necessarily like to make fun of people who have like a certain kind of accent or whatever. But at one point, I thought that he was testifying that he was communicating with his girlfriend in Texas. And I'm like, what the heck is this guy talking about? We're talking about a parade in Wisconsin. Why is he talking about Texas? Texts. He meant texts, but he was saying texts. So I thought he was saying Texas. Like, this guy doesn't even know how to speak English, but he's supposed to represent himself in a murder trial? So another thing, well, the point is with the whole COVID thing and him crying and him complaining about having a cut on his arm and all that, even if all of that was true, do you really think, and I mean, I don't know if this is what's going on in his head because I can't read what's going on in his head because he's insane and I can't think like a nut unless maybe if I took like 3 sheets of LSD, maybe I'd be able to understand him, but it seems to me like he's trying to play on the sympathies of the jury. Oh, I thought I had COVID. Oh, I got a little cut on my arm. you guys, I'm crying in court. You guys need to feel sorry for me and let me go for murdering a bunch of people and run over a bunch of children and a bunch of old ladies in my car. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. Nobody's even going to think about feeling sorry for you after you did that. And, and the big thing is, for those of you who don't know, and he hasn't testified yet. His testimony is going to be amazing. I can't wait to hear the amount of stupidity that's going to come out of his mouth when he testifies. But anyway, his whole thing is that he beat up his girlfriend, jumped in his SUV, and drove away because she was threatening to call the cops. So that makes it okay for you to run over a bunch of people because you just beat up your girlfriend and were running away from the cops? Oh, man. Yeah, the temper tantrum with taking off his shirt and all that. Yeah, absolutely. And Texas for texts, though. Yeah, he said acts instead of asks. Yeah. But yeah, so trying to get sympathy for whatever little bit's wrong with him and this and that. But his actual defense, he seems to be trying to plant the defense that that when he took his SUV, he went into the gas station, and then a different red SUV ran over all those people. But he's not really doing a good job of trying to build that as his defense, because the way he's questioning, now I'm talking like him, the way he's questioning the witnesses is so ridiculous, because it's like, they're talking about the directions the cars are driving in. Oh, that's irrelevant. No, it's not. Like, that's the whole foundation of the whole thing. And then, well, do you have jurisdiction? Well, if you're trying to build the defense that you weren't the guy in the car, you should be asking questions like, did you see the driver's face? Well, he had a beard, long hair, and a hood on. Then you would say, oh, well, I'm bald. I have no beard. Yeah, a guy could shave, but are you absolutely certain that I'm the same guy? Like, there are ways you could question someone to put doubt in the minds of the jury. This is why you should have a lawyer that would put doubt in the minds of the jury as to whether or not you actually were the person driving the car, if that is what the defense you're trying to lay. But the way he's trying to lay that is by bringing up all of this. Well, you don't have jurisdiction anyway. What? Well, what direction the car was driving is irrelevant. No, it's not. Well, the people that were standing on the side of the road were in the way of the car. They were standing in the street. What? How he isn't even attempting to lay the groundwork for what he's attempting to lay the groundwork for. This guy is so stupid. And yes, LJ Singh's made a good point. There are a lot of things that he could actually make legitimate objections to, but he doesn't, because he doesn't know. And he's well, I have all this stuff in front of me, Your Honor, and it's really difficult to go through all this stuff and put it together in defense. That's why you get a lawyer. That's why you don't go pro se, especially in a murder trial. This isn't a stupid misdemeanor traffic citation, but he's using the same script. It's insane. Anyway, welcome Christopher O'Connor, Edward Wickham. Hello. LJ Singh's News Now Enemy. Good to see you. I'm glad to have so many good people in here tonight. But yeah, so he's going around, and again, my whole thing is, and the whole reason I wanted to cover this is because my take on it is based more on, because of the whole sovereign citizen thing. And for anyone who wasn't here earlier, my whole point of why I wanted to discuss it is specifically regarding the fact that every time I argue with any of these sovereign citizen type people, I always make the point like, well, you're talking about this and that and the other thing, but if that stuff was true, then what would happen if it was a murder case? And that was always sort of an example of a possible situation, but it's just a scenario. It isn't real. This is real. This actually happened. This actually is a real murder case, and he's doing it. It's not just something that like I came up with as an argument. This is real, legit, idiot sovereign citizen trying to pull this nonsense in court and get off on killing all those people and putting how many people in the hospital. And just in case you don't know the specifics, okay, it wasn't like he just drove through the parade, okay? As he was driving through, he hit certain people. And the people he hit specifically were the dancing grannies, which is a bunch of old ladies, just dancing around, having fun in the parade. A teenage high school marching band. So old ladies, teenagers, children that were on the ground, picking up candy that also got hit, and then a group of people that were sent from the local Catholic Church to march. So those are the three groups that he ran through before he turned up the road, but also just other regular people. What's up, Base Horseman? Chalk Boy 8. Hello, good to see you. So he runs into all these people. He kills 6 people, puts dozens in the hospital. They don't even have an exact number of how many people he got injured from him. There were literally bodies flying all over the place. And this is one of the big points that they keep bringing up. They're asking the witnesses, did you hear the SUV honk its horn? Did you hear the SUV honk its horn? Because if he's trying to make the excuse that he was just running away and didn't actually mean to hit anybody with his car, why wouldn't he be honking his horn to warn them he's coming so they'll move out of the way? There's so much noise and stuff going on in a parade. You're not going to just necessarily hear a car coming. And especially if you're marching in the parade and he's coming from behind you, right? And that's exactly what happened. Anyway, I'm going to take this is the other thing, because he wastes so much time and tries so hard to delay everything that his trial's been going on for 2 days now. I think the first day took 10 hours just to do 2 witnesses. And then today, I think they got 4 off, but it was because the judge just kept shutting them down. At one point, not only did she order that he cannot bring up the plaintiff anymore because he keeps objecting to the fact that the state can't be a plaintiff, and he's not even allowed to discuss that anymore, but he would be cross-examining a witness and ask him a bunch of nonsense, ask him the same questions. And again, he's not understanding, right? The judge is telling him, you can't ask the same question over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? And his argument is, well, it's not the same question. But the type of questions he's asking would be like, what time did you cross the street? Okay, so when you crossed the street, what time was it? Like, there's 2 different questions. So when you crossed the street and you looked at your watch and you saw the numbers, what did those numbers say? Like, the judge is like, okay, you just keep asking the same questions. So several times during his cross-examination, the judge just said, you know what? I'm ordering that your cross-examination is done. That's it. You're done. Move on to the next witness. Like, that's how bad it's gotten. So, hey, Base Horseman, good to see you. Glad you said hello. Have a good evening. So again, we're talking about so far 2 days of trial, almost 20 hours of, 19 hours of actual trial time. So obviously I'm not going to sit here and show the whole thing, but I got some clips, a couple things I want to show to just kind of illustrate how this moron's sovereign citizen BS goes, nowhere. I'm going to start with his girlfriend. And again, the whole idea was that it all started when him and her got in an argument. he backhanded her hard enough that she had a black eye. They showed pictures of her with her face all messed up from it. Her and her friends started screaming at him. They threatened to call the cops. And they actually showed, it was heart-wrenching. I mean, they showed this footage of the cop that was taking the report from the girl that her boyfriend just beat him up. At that time, nobody had made the connection that the guy who just beat her up jumped in his car and drove down the parade route, right? Nobody knew that that's what was going on. So the cop's talking to her, and you could hear on his radio, 10-8, 10-8, or 10-48, whatever it was. Come now. We need everyone. All officers on deck. People are getting run over in the parade. And he's trying to talk to this girl who's trying to tell him, I just got beat up by my boy. And he's like, he takes down her name and says, I gotta go. People are getting killed. Like his radio screaming, oh, come now. People are dying. It's a terrible disaster. So eventually he splits, but he took down her name. And then later on, when he was interviewing, or when a detective was interviewing her about this supposed beating or whatever, they're like, whoa, wait a minute. Who beat you up? My boyfriend. And who is he? Darrell Brooks. And what was he driving? A red SUV. Well, the guy that was driving the red SUV that mowed down all those people in the parade, his name's Darrell Brooks. And that's when they started to make the connection between he beat her up, she threatened to call the cops, so he took off and went down the parade route. So, yeah, this is him cross-examining her. And just listen to how stupid, pointless, and sovereign citizen nonsensical his cross-examination is. It's almost painful to watch, but it's weird because on one hand, I want to laugh at this guy because he's so freaking stupid. But again, unlike the majority of these idiots, when we point and laugh at them, it's because they're using these sovereign citizen narratives to try and get out of stupid traffic tickets. This is a freaking murder. This is not a joke, but he's treating it like you would treat a parking ticket or something if you're a sovereign citizen. So here, let's check out him cross-examining his ex-girlfriend. Oh boy. Let's see which one is it? Sorry, I got a bunch of different ones queued up. What the heck? Oh, here it is. All right. Check this out.
That's all I have for this witness.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brooks, do you have any questions for this witness?
Yes, I do. First of all, good morning
Good morning.
and happy birthday.
Thank you.
You stated that you were hanging out with your friend Miss Corey on the day of this incident, correct?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that you were hanging out drinking?
Yes.
Irrelevant.
Would it also be fair to say that you occasionally drink too much?
Objection is noted.
Sustained.
Would it be fair to say that, well, let me back up. What were you drinking?
A Mike's Hard beverage.
Were you aware that it was said that you were actually drinking vodka?
No.
Objection.
Hold on. When there's an objection, I need to rule on it first, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Sustained that mischaracterizes the previous testimony. Next question.
So it would be fair to say that you were drinking.
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that you were a little intoxicated?
I was not.
So if she was, that makes it okay for you to beat her up?
How much did you drink that day?
1 cup of Mike's Hard alcohol beverage.
And around what time of the day was that?
I don't remember.
Was it shortly before meeting up with the alleged defendant, or was it
Alleged
sometime
defendant.
before?
I love that he refers to himself as alleged defendant.
Did you
He's
have
not-
anything to drink after?
He's
No.
not an alleged defendant. He's a defendant.
You stated that you were engaging in a conversation with the alleged defendant via the telephone. Would that be fair to say?
Yes,
Texts, phone calls?
yes,
Texas phone calls.
Were those texts and phone calls of what nature were they of?
me and Mr. Brooks were arguing throughout the day.
In the texts and phone calls?
Yes, we were.
They were arguing in Texas and
If
on
there
phone
were-
calls.
If the conversation was argumentative, why would you agree to meet up with the alleged defendant?
I do not know.
She's been in love with him forever.
Do you
She's one of those
recall
girls.
how the meetup was supposed to be set up?
I don't recall.
Did you at any time ask the alleged defendant to meet up with you?
Well, I told Mr. Brooks where I was.
Did you at any time ask to meet up with the alleged defendant?
No, I did not.
So it would be fair to say that the alleged defendant just came where you were?
Yes, I told you where we were. And obviously, we were going to hang out. I never told Mr. Brooks to hang out with me. I told him where we were.
So why would, if there was an argumentative conversation prior to you meeting up with the alleged defendant, why would you tell the alleged defendant where you were?
Sustained.
You just stated that you really don't know the city of Waukesha. Would that be fair to say?
Yes,
So how would you know exactly where you were?
because I was with Corey and she's familiar with this area.
Would it be fair to say that Corey overheard these conversations between you and the alleged defendant?
Yes, she was my roommate. She heard every conversation almost.
When you say every conversation, what would that
When
refer to?
she was in the room with me, when I was always talking to her.
So it would be fair to say that you were engaged in conversation with the alleged defendant before you even left the women's shelter?
Yes,
Every time he says alleged
And
defendant,
those argumentative conversations continue into your hanging out.
yes,
Would it be fair to say that that's what led you to drink?
no,
Would it be fair to say you were drinking because that's what you wanted to do?
yes,
Is it true that one of the rules and requirements of being at the women's shelter is no drugs and no alcohol? Would that be fair to say?
yes. But when I was drinking, it was at Frame Park. I was not at the women's shelter.
Would it be fair to say that you knew you had to come back into the women's shelter at some point that day, that they have a curfew?
Yes. And I made it before curfew.
Let me back up a little bit. You did state that part of the rules and requirements for being in the women's shelter is no drugs and no alcohol, correct?
Yes, it was not in the women's shelter.
That's not what I'm asking. It's part of the requirement and rules of the women's shelter, no drugs, no alcohol.
Yes,
Sustained. Next question, Mr. Brooks.
Is there any type of drug and alcohol testing at the women's shelter?
I don't know. No,
No, or you don't know?
I don't know.
Would it be fair to say that if it was found that you were engaging in drugs and alcohol, that you might have lost your place at the women's shelter?
I'll object. I don't see how this is relevant.
Sustained. Next question.
So around what time were you hanging out with Miss Corey, you said?
I
What,
don't remember.
do you remember where you were at?
Frame Park.
Do you remember where in Frame Park?
No,
And approximately at what time did you meet up with the alleged defendant?
I don't remember.
How long were you with the alleged defendant? Do you remember that?
Approximately 30, 35 minutes.
Do you recall what? Well, you said that during this time you were with the alleged defendant that there was a argument going on. Would that be fair to say?
Yes,
Do you remember what that argument was about?
he was arguing with me about money because I did not bail him out.
You also said that well, let me back up from that a little bit. If you knew that the conversation was becoming volatile, why did you still meet up with the alleged defendant?
I don't know.
To your knowledge, did the alleged defendant know anything about the city of Waukesha?
Yes,
And what did the alleged defendant know about Waukesha?
he told me, Mr. Brooks told me that his first child's mother lives in Waukesha.
So he's got more than one child besides the one he has with her. Great. KFR mentioned something, and I was just about to get into this. So, okay, he's trying to destroy her credibility because she was drunk. Okay, fine. First of all, she wasn't. Apparently, even if she was, though, this is not a case about him beating her. That's not what he's on trial for. The whole reason she came there to testify is to lay the groundwork as to why he drove through the parade in anger. He was mad at her and flipping out and losing his mind. And that's why he just plowed down the street as fast as he could, going through people and didn't care. She's laying the groundwork for that. So even if she's found not credible, that doesn't get rid of all the other witnesses and video footage of him driving through the crowd at the parade. So it's like he's, like Kfar said, it's like he's defending himself against the charge for beating her, but that's not one of the 77 charges he's facing in this case. That's a whole nother case he's going to have to deal with after he's locked up for this for the rest of his life.
Do you know that to be a fact?
No, that's just what Mr. Brooks told me.
Are you aware that the alleged defendant, in fact, has no mother of any child that lives in the city of Waukesha?
Objection. If Mr. Brooks wants to testify, you should do so in a different stage of the trial.
Sustained. You don't need to answer that.
Yes, ma'am.
Other than what you can recall about what the alleged defendant told you that they knew about Waukesha, how did the alleged defendant meet up with you in the location that you gave?
Mr. Brooks already knew where Frame Park was. Mr. Brooks previously had been to Waukesha plenty of times before. He's told me that.
And when was that told to you, and what conversation? Was it that day?
Before that, I'm not sure which day it was. I just know he knows about Waukesha.
So
I think she does a great job.
would it be fair to say that when you told the alleged defendant where you were, that the alleged defendant knew exactly where you were?
Yes,
And how would the alleged defendant know that?
because Mr. Brooks already knew Waukesha. He knew exactly where to go.
Did you at any time give directions where you may have been?
How could I give directions when I barely knew Waukesha myself?
Is that a no?
That's a no, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you.
So if you barely knew Waukesha yourself, where did you get the information of where you were from, where you were at the time of the conversation via telephone?
I left the women's shelter with Corey, and she knows that location. She told me what Frame Park was. I didn't know the name.
And would it be fair to say, assuming from what you just said, that you were with the alleged defendant for approximately around 30 minutes or so?
Yes,
And during that time, did you make any disparaging remarks or anything to entice the argument to escalate?
no,
So you didn't say anything at all during your 30 minutes with the alleged defendant?
no, because I was crying the whole time because Mr. Brooks was yelling at me, arguing with me.
So you said absolutely nothing at all?
I was crying the whole time.
Did you say anything?
No,
A few more things.
no,
A few more questions.
Okay.
You said that during this, well, once you had got out of the vehicle, as you say, you stated that your friend Miss Corey pulled you away from the vehicle because it swerved.
yes, it was in the video.
Yeah, the video clearly shows that.
You do know that we just saw the video. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, but there's two angles of the video.
Well, we only saw one, so I'm referring to the
Yes,
video that we saw.
Corey pulled me out the way when Mr. Brooks made a U-turn, and you almost swerved into Miss Patterson, which is me.
Would it be fair to say that the video does not show that?
There's different angles, but the video does not show that, the video we watched.
So the video that we just watched, that the jury just saw, there is no swerving of the vehicle and you being pulled back. Would that be fair to
From
say?
the far angle, you can kind of see it. Yes.
Would that be fair to say? That
You
there's,
answered the question, Mr. Brooks. Next question. Under 906.11 sub 1 sub C, I direct your attention to that next question.
do you recall what was said during the altercation between is it Miss Corey and the alleged defendant?
No, I don't remember.
Would it be fair to say that you were standing right there?
Yes, I just don't remember what was being said.
Do you recall reporting anything that may have been said during that incident?
No,
Did you give a statement to anything that may have been said again, during that incident?
no,
Was anything directed towards you verbally in that incident?
yes. Corey told Mr. Brooks, don't ever hit my effing friend again. I remember that part. That was in the beginning.
Do you remember anything else that may have been said?
No,
Do you recall anything being said by Nick to the alleged defendant?
no,
Do you recall the alleged defendant saying anything to Nick?
No, I don't remember.
You also stated that right after this incident, you talked to law enforcement. Would that be fair to say?
Yes,
At any time, did you report any abuse?
yes,
And what did you report?
that you hit me.
And you gave a statement to that effect?
No, not to that police officer, but the detectives at the women's shelter.
Well, I'm referring to right during, well,
Oh, I don't
directly
remember.
after the incident.
I don't remember what I told that police officer.
Okay, so I'm going to pause it there for a second because I want to address where he's going right now. So this is what I was talking about earlier. There's an officer that they question later on, and he shows the video of him talking to her. Okay, and this is the video I was talking about earlier. He's trying to make it seem like, well, if you got beat and the alleged defendant, which is insane because he's the alleged perpetrator of the crime, but he's not the alleged defendant. He is the defendant. But anyway, the cop, when you see the video, you see that, and I mentioned this before, but this is the girl I'm talking about. The cop is interviewing her. And right now, he's looking at the police report and trying to say, like, well, how come you didn't tell the cop this? How come you didn't tell the cop that? Well, you can see quite clearly in the video that while the cop is talking to her, the cop's radio is going nuts because there's some idiot driving his SUV into a crowd of people at the parade. And the radio's going nuts. 12 people down, 15 people down, 30 people down. All officers immediately come here, come here. He didn't have time to take a full statement from her because this idiot was driving his car, plowing down people at a Christmas parade. And that took precedence. So the cop just wrote down her name and then ran off to go help the people that were being mown over by this idiot. So that's why she didn't have time to give a full statement. He's trying to paint it like it didn't happen, and that's why you didn't give a full statement. It's so ridiculously insane. This guy's so stupid and trying to play these insane games. Oh, lordy, 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 lord. What a douche hammer.
Just one quick second. I'm reading from the statement, if I may.
You may.
Do you remember what was said by the alleged defendant when that incident ended?
No, I do not remember.
Do you remember reporting in your statement that the last thing he said to me was FUB, erase my number? Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
Would it be fair to say that you reported that this was said?
I don't remember.
Do you remember giving a statement to that effect?
No,
Would it be fair to say that you gave a statement?
no, I don't remember. I gave a statement to the detectives at the women's center.
So
That's
would
what I
it be
remember.
fair? I'm sorry, I didn't know.
I'm done answering.
Yes,
All right, next question.
Would it be fair to say that your memory is kind of cloudy of that day because you were intoxicated?
no,
It's because of the chaos. She just got beat up and then somebody ran over a bunch of people at the
There's
parade.
a lot of things in this statement that you don't seem to remember. Is that fair to say?
Objection, that's argument.
Sustained. Next question.
Would it be fair to say that you reported 2 different incidents?
Yes,
Do you remember the dates of those incidents that you
the
reported?
20th and the 21st.
Would it be fair to say that there was no incident on the 20th?
No,
Would it be fair to say that
It'd be fair to say this guy's an idiot.
you were initially not truthful with law enforcement?
no,
Do you recall making a statement to law enforcement on November the 22nd of 2021?
I don't remember. I made this statement on the 21st of the day of the parade when I met the detectives that night.
Do you recall making a second statement the next day, or the next morning rather, which would have been the 22nd of November 2021?
Yes, I did actually. Yes, I did.
Do you recall what you reported that day?
I told them about the 20th when I met with Mr. Brooks, and all we did was argue. And you hit me then too.
So you reported incidents for 2 days in a row.
Yes,
Do you recall at any time telling law enforcement that you were not truthful and wanted to be truthful at that point?
no,
So you never made a statement to your knowledge that you fabricated a reported abuse incident.
no.
1 second here, I'm reading from you. To the best of your knowledge, do you remember talking with a detective? I don't want to butcher this name, Your Honor. I don't know how to pronounce it.
You can spell it if that's helpful.
A detective, Behrendt.
Detective Barron? Is it a detective or an officer?
It says detective, Your Honor.
Okay, ask your question.
Do you remember speaking with that detective?
Yes,
Do you remember what you reported to that detective?
I don't remember.
I'm reading directly from the statement, Your Honor, if I may.
Ask your question.
Do you remember reporting to that detective saying you were not completely forthright with all of the information that you had given because you were afraid to get other people involved in your drama or your business?
I don't remember that.
And I'll object and move to strike based on the fact that I think I'm safe in saying that that is not from the report which the defendant is referring to.
Okay. Now, I want to address this real quick because this is going to come up again in a minute, in a little while when I play in the interview he did with the police. He does not understand. He doesn't, right? He does not comprehend the definition of the word forthright because I don't know if it's because there's 2 different cops that he cross-examined. So I don't remember specifically which one, because again, this was hours and hours and hours. But he kept coming back to that statement that she said she wasn't being forthright in the initial thing. So he's saying, so you admitted you lied? No. Being forthright means she didn't offer all of the specifics. It's not that she lied about the stuff she did say, it's that she didn't say everything. Because again, at the time, this was a girl who's been dating a guy for years and they've had spats back and forth a million times. So at the time, for her, this was just another one of those deals. So she's not going to make a big thing out of it. But then she finds out that all those people that were killed by his car right after that. Now it's like, whoa, wait a minute. I better, like, when the cops come back, I better tell them everything that happened. So forthright doesn't mean she lied. He doesn't understand that that's what the word forthright means. He thinks it means that she admitted she lied. And he just keeps going back to that and back to that until it gets to a point where it's like, and yeah, Chalk Boy, Cheech and Chong said it best. Bailiff, whack his pee. Yeah, I mean, this guy's so stupid. And anyway, let's look at some more of his stupidity. Oh boy.
The objection is sustained. I'll grant the motion to strike by the state of the question and any response that may have been elicited before I address the objection.
Your Honor, quick question on that. I'm reading directly from the report.
Next question, Mr. Brooks.
Just 1 second, Your Honor.
Okay.
I apologize for that, Your Honor. Do you remember at any time speaking with Officer Guth?
Yes.
And do you recall on what date that was?
November 21st.
Do you remember what you reported on November the 21st?
That me and Mr. Brooks, I met with Mr. Brooks at Frame Park. Me and Mr. Brooks got into an altercation. You hit me. I jumped out of your car and I walked and met my friend Corey. You followed me. And then after that, Nick and Miss Corey, they called the police officer. And then you drove off.
Just 1 second, Your Honor. Do you recall reporting to Officer Guth that you were not completely forthright with the information that you reported?
I don't remember. And no, actually, no, I did not say that. I apologize.
So reading from what was reported to Officer Guth states that what I learned from Erica Patterson was that when I spoke to her on the previous evening with Officer Garrett, was that the pronunciation, Your Honor? I'm sorry.
I don't have it in front of me. I'm not sure.
She was not completely forthright with all of the information she had given. Would that be fair to say?
What was your question?
Do you recall in your reporting to Officer Guth that you were not forthright with the information that you gave?
No, I don't recall that.
So to the best of your recollection, at any time that you reported incidents to any law enforcement, at any time do you recall being untruthful?
No.
So do you remember the date and time of the first incident that you allege?
I don't remember the time, but it was November 20th.
Do you remember what time of day that may have been?
I just said I don't remember.
Do you remember where you were at?
Frame Park.
So would it be fair to say that both alleged incidents that you are alleging happened at Frame Park?
The second incident on November 21st did not happen on Frame Park. We were driving around and he hit me.
What
The
I'm
first
asking
incident.
is where you were at when you met up.
Frame Park, yes.
On
That's
both,
not what you
on both
just
alleged
said.
occasions?
Yes. That's how Mr. Brooks knew where Frame Park is. He already knew Waukesha area in the first place.
Same park.
Yes.
Do you remember where you were at in Frame Park?
No, it was in the parking lot, the first side of the parking lot, kind of by the baseball field, I think that is. If that is the baseball field.
Do you recall who you were with?
Nobody. I was with Corey on November 21st, and the first day on November 20th, I was by myself.
So it would be fair to say that you went to the park alone.
Yes, I met up with Mr. Brooks intentionally on the 20th. Yes.
What's
Were you
crazy is
drinking
that
that
she's
day?
smarter
No.
than him. I don't know why she would date him.
And how did you know how to get to Frame Park, as you call it?
I knew how to get to Frame Park because I'd been the previous times before that with Miss Corey. Walking past it, I knew how to get there because Corey walked with me that day too. I just was not with her. She walked towards there with me.
And so then you separated?
Yes.
Did you separate from Miss Corey at any time during the 21st?
Yes, I did. She left with Nick and I was with Mr. Darrell Brooks.
Do you recall, to the best of your knowledge, that it may have been someone else that she was with, that was with you that day?
She was by which day? Are you clarifying? Which day?
November the 21st of 2021.
She was with Nick that day.
The entire day?
Yes.
And you guys separated from that point?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say you guys separated after hanging out and drinking?
Mr. Brooks, under 906.11, sub 1, sub C, you need to move on to a new topic. You've been over this multiple times. It's been asked, it's been answered, and now it's under my authority under 906.11, sub 1, sub C, you need to move on.
So to the best of your knowledge, well, let me back up. How did you communicate with the alleged defendant on November 20th of 2021?
Phone calls.
Strictly phone calls, texts?
Both. Mostly phone calls.
More phone calls in
Do you
Texas.
remember what was said in those texts and phone
Same
calls?
conversation we had on the 21st. He was mad because I wasn't giving him money from not bailing him out.
This is the exact same line of questioning he started with.
So why would you meet up with the alleged defendant that day?
Because I just wanted to. We have a 15-year-old together. I mean, I was always going to talk to you then.
Do you remember if there was any agreed upon meeting up that day
Yes,
by you, by the alleged defendant?
both.
Do you remember the reason why you were meeting up?
I just said why.
So it would have been just to conversate, to,
Just to conversate.
To converse?
would it be fair to say that you could have communicated strictly by the phone?
Yes.
Objection.
Under 906, 11 sub 1 sub C, the objection is sustained. Next topic, if you have one, Mr. Brooks.
You said that you came to Wisconsin from another state. Would that be fair to say?
Atlanta, Georgia, yes. June 13th, 2021.
And why did you leave Georgia?
We were coming out here for 2 weeks and I never went back.
Can you state why you never went back?
Number one, I came out here, I didn't have money. Number two, I had no way to get back. And you were always, Mr. Brooks was always physical.
So at any time were you ever offered money to go back to Georgia, or did anybody at any time
No.
ever,
No,
did anybody at any time ever lend any help to help you go back to Georgia?
no,
Did you, to the best of your recollection, did you want to go back to Georgia?
Objection. Ellis.
Sustained. Next question, please.
So why didn't you file a report with law enforcement on November the 20th after you alleged that you were abused?
because I've been dealing with it for so many years, I just didn't do it. I don't
So
see what this has anything to do with this case.
how long have you known the alleged defendant again?
Since I was 15, I'm 32 now.
Now
Would
she's
it be
making
fair to say
objections.
that, you lived in different states from the alleged defendant?
Yes, but
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought there was.
I was gonna object and ask for clarification on the timeline there.
I'll sustain the objection, rephrase the question.
I was gonna get to that, Your Honor. Would it be fair to say that during the duration of the time knowing the alleged defendant, that the majority of that time you did not live in the same area or state?
yeah, off and on. I met Mr. Brooks in Reno, Nevada. I moved out of Reno, Nevada in 2017 to Atlanta, Georgia. I moved Mr. Brooks throughout. I've known him throughout, back and forth, off and on. The whole 16 years, me and Mr. Brooks were not together, but it was off and on.
Did you guys live in the same area off and on during that time?
Objection.
I-
Ask and answer.
Sustained.
Out
I
of
love
the
how
16
frustrated she's
years you
getting
said
with
it
him.
was, correct.
Yes, off and on, Mr. Brooks.
How much of that time did you actually spend with the alleged defendant?
Objection. Ellis.
Sustained. Also under 906, 11 sub 1 sub C. Move on.
At the time of this alleged incident, were you and the alleged defendant in any kind of relationship?
Yes,
And were you a couple? Were you just co-parenting, or
we
what
were.
was the nature of the relationship is basically
We
what
were
I'm asking.
together. I wouldn't have came to Milwaukee, Wisconsin if I was not with him.
So it'd be fair to say that you were in a committed relationship.
Yes.
And
One second, I'm just going over something.
trying to find anything that he could throw at her.
Would it be fair to say,
She got a drink of water. She said, "Thank you." Excuse
I'm
me.
sorry, I didn't know.
Go ahead. No, there was a water bottle being provided.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. How did before you came back into contact with the alleged defendant, how long had it been since you had seen the alleged defendant?
I don't know, but it's years, a couple years.
So it would be fair to say that there was a significant gap in between interactions with the alleged defendant.
Yes.
Question relevance.
Sustained, however, she provided the answer. It may stand. Next question.
So during your time, well, approximately how long were you staying around the alleged defendant before this incident on November 21st took place?
I don't know the exact time. I just answered your question on the exact time.
Were there any separations or gaps during that time?
Objection relevance.
Sustained.
Yes, Kat, he did not have COVID. They were negative, and it made him cry. And nobody felt sorry for him.
At any time during these alleged incidents, were you with someone other than Miss Corey?
Corey and Nick the day of the 21st, and then we separated and I met back up with them.
Any time during that day were you with anyone else besides those two that you just named?
Mr. Brooks, you.
What about the alleged incident on the 20th?
I left with Miss Corey, and then she went a whole different direction, and I went to Frame Park and met up with Mr. Brooks.
How many times is he going to make her tell that story?
Just 1 second, Your Honor. Recollection, you were not drinking on both of those days that you cite, the 20th or the 21st.
The 20th.
Brooks, hold on. Mr. Brooks, under 90611, I'm stopping this cross-examination. You've asked the same question, multiple questions, multiple times. And at this point, I'm going to declare that
I
the
didn't know-
opportunity to cross is now concluded.
I didn't know that was the same question, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks, it's been asked and answered multiple times.
I
So
was
with that,
referring to
I'm going
other-
to turn to the state to see if they have any redirect.
All right. So I'm going to stop there with this one. And then, and I love the fact that the judge keeps shutting down his cross, like, because he just keeps repeating the same thing. And like I said earlier, where were you on the 21st? I was at the park. And who were you with? I was with my friends. Okay. So were you with your friends at the park? Yes. So were your friends the people that were at the park? Yeah. Like, just because he words it different, it's the same question over and over and over and over. What's the point? What's the purpose? There is none. He's an idiot. But anyway, I'm going to show you guys something next. Okay. This is from later on in the trial, maybe even the next day. Again, I've been watching the whole thing. It was 10 hours the first day, 8 hours the next day. So there's 18 hours, 20 hours total of all this stuff going on. So trying to sort through all the different bits and pieces is a little complex, but I made a point earlier. Now I'm going to show it, where one of the big things that he kept trying to get at in this extremely horrible questioning cross-examination that he attempted to do was to try and sort of build this narrative that she lied to the cop on the 21st during her initial interview with the cop, because she later on admitted that she wasn't forthright with her information. In other words, didn't tell the cop everything. Again, that's not the same thing as lying, but Darrell Brooks doesn't understand that. Well, he doesn't understand anything, right? He doesn't comprehend anything. So now I'm going to show from later on, and like I said, I think it was maybe even the next day, when the officer that interviewed her is on the stand and they show the video of his interview with her. Now, I'm going to put that on right now, and I want you guys to pay close attention to what's happening. And I want you to tell me in the chat if you can understand from seeing this why she didn't make a full statement to the cop at that time. Again, he's trying to build this narrative that she was drunk and she lied and didn't do the statement because she didn't know what was going on and all this stuff that she was making up, blah, blah, blah. Now, here's the actual interview that the policeman did with her on the street at the time. And watching this, again, let me know in the chat. Tell me if you can kind of maybe understand why she didn't provide a full statement at the time. Let's see. Put this on the screen for you. And let's see if it makes a little bit more sense why.
What? Black guy, red SUV, just assaulted my friend in the park. Oh, shit. This good guy, he's not hitting me. So, they come to talk. You guys involved with a knife or something? You can check me. Okay. Nice. Okay. I've already been slashing tonight. Let me pull over here. Yeah. Hey, hold on for a second, okay? 216, I need another at Hartwell and White Rock. I have another person reported it. Okay. White Rock, Hartwell, right. Okay. He ran me over the car. Right now we're just talking. Nothing is happening. There's no knife, nothing. They call and somebody multiple injured, gas fire. Okay. Shots fired, Wisconsin and West. I'm checking for injuries. There was someone running through the parade route at a high rate of speed. 1078. Okay. 102. Again, 1078. We have about 10 to 15 people down in the street. Who assaulted you? Who ran?
Okay, Leland asked, what are we looking at? Okay, so this is the cop interviewing Erica, because just now she was on the stand. Darrell Brooks was questioning her, trying to make it sound like she didn't give this officer a full statement because she was lying. Meanwhile, while this officer is talking to her, you can hear on his radio, hey, someone just got hurt at the parade. More people just got hurt at the parade. 15 people down, 15 people down. Like it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And eventually it's like the cop can't just pay attention to this lady. He has the guy driving over the people in the crowd happening right down the street. That cop car you're looking at the background is there to block off the street for the parade. And where the lights are by the church in the background is the parade. And all that stuff is going on as, and again, I'll rewind it and listen to, because every time they call, I forget what the number is, 1018 or something like that. That means like major, huge emergency happening right now. I'll rewind it a little bit with now that I put a little bit more in context for you. Let's see. Pay attention to the radio calls that the cop is getting, as much as you can, because they are hard to hear.
216. I need another at Hartwell and White Rock. I have another person reported it. Okay. White Rock, Hartwell, right. Okay.
He ran me over with cars. Right now, we're just talking. Nothing is happening. There's no nice nothing. They call for me.
Okay.
Shots fired, Wisconsin and West. I'm checking for injuries. There was someone running through the parade route at a high rate of speed. 1078.
Okay. Who assaulted you? Who ran? Do you have a weapon?
We have multiple subjects down. 10 to 15 people made in gas fire, receiving native from gas fire 1078.
I didn't call You gotta handle that fight.
Okay. What is your name? Say your name. Harris, what's your date of birth?
October 7, 1990.
So 10/7/1990. Erica Patterson. Okay. Okay.
All right. So, in the context of what you just saw, is it a little bit easier to understand now why she didn't give that cop a full statement? When Darrell Brooks was cross-examining her, he kept going back to that initial statement. Like, the cop was like, it was like the end of the world was going on right down the street. And he was hearing it. And yeah, I saw some people in the chat saying, well, how the heck did he not respond more quickly or whatever? But number one, he doesn't know what's going on yet. Nobody knew what was going on yet. At first, it was like someone down. Okay, well, there's a ton of cops at the parade, so I'm sure they're taking care of it. But then the next call, 15 people down. Whoa, that's pretty serious. But I mean, I'm in the middle of taking this statement from this lady. A couple seconds later, 30 people down. And eventually, he had to just leave though. He did. Eventually, he got her name and her date of birth so that later on he could give that information to the detectives. That's when the detectives contacted her and did the proper interview where he's trying to make it sound like because she said different stuff than she did in the initial interview, that proves she's lying. But look at that. That was the initial interview. That was the video footage of the initial interview. She didn't have time to say anything, and the cop didn't have time to concentrate on what she was saying because idiot was driving through the parade with his SUV running people over. Exactly, Jim. Like, that isn't the kind of thing anyone would think would be a thing. So anyway, after that, Mr. Braindead gets to cross-examine the cop. Let's see. Yeah, here we go.
DC 1078.
Well, my unit 552, People's Park, female, not conscious, not alert, not breathing. King County, nobody here available now. 103 has got multiple critical branches.
Oh, yeah. We're doing CPR on an individual at 369 West Main Street.
Asked Erica Patterson who assaulted her. Did she tell you a name?
She did not, no,
She did not provide you with any names.
she did not.
Okay. You had her name and her date of birth, and that was it at that point.
That's all I could gather before I had to burn out of there as fast as I could.
Okay. Now, when you got to Main Street, where'd you go?
When I got to Main Street,
I'm going to get fast forward to his cross because it's hilarious.
there was a lot of I was gathering that a couple of adults. It's my understanding that some more.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brooks, you may start your cross-examination.
All right, now, before we get into, oh my gosh, wait till you guys see this. So, again, this whole thing is breaking down not just the case of what's happening, but specifically the sovereign citizen nonsense that this guy keeps spouting, and how, again, I always say when I talk to these people, like, okay, but because they're almost always traffic citations, right? You point, you laugh, you say that's a stupid argument. But now we have somebody who's a real person in a real trial for a real multiple murders, and he's using the same stupid arguments. One of the things that's going to happen when he starts talking to this cop, the whole idea of like, well, our tax dollars pay the police and blah, blah, blah. He's going to try to establish that the cop is wearing his uniform and on the stand and getting paid to be on the stand. Like, he's trying to make the connection that it's part of the government conspiracy against, it's the sovereign citizen excuse, right? Well, we're paying cops to do this and do that out of my tax dollars. That's not right. But he's going to try to bring that into a murder case. Watch. What's up, Uncle Artie?
I noticed, Officer Phillips, you are in uniform this afternoon. Were you scheduled to work today?
Yes.
So it would be fair to say that you would be on duty as of now if you weren't giving testimony in this matter.
I would be on duty right now, yes.
So it will also be fair to ask if it would be fair to say that you giving testimony right now, you're still getting paid for it?
I am currently employed by the City of Waukesha Police Department on a working patrol shift, on a normal shift for myself, yes.
So with that, would it be fair to say that you are getting paid right now as we speak?
Yes, I'm getting paid right now.
By whom?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained. Next question.
Were you subpoenaed by the plaintiff in this matter?
Can you rephrase the question?
Were you subpoenaed to testify here today by the plaintiff?
Can you explain it in another way?
That was pretty clear. Were you subpoenaed to testify by the plaintiff in this matter?
I was subpoenaed by the Waukesha County Prosecution's Office to testify in this matter.
And can you say that again, just for the record?
I was subpoenaed by the Waukesha County Prosecution's Office in this matter.
Is the Waukesha County Prosecution's Office the plaintiff in this matter?
Objection, irrelevant.
Sustained.
Do you know of any plaintiff in this matter?
Objection, irrelevant.
Sustained.
Have you ever seen the plaintiff in this matter?
Objection, irrelevant.
Have you ever talked
Sustained.
to the plaintiff in this matter?
Objection, irrelevant.
Sustained.
Why are you continuing to look at parties that are not asking the questions?
I was waiting for that one. So right off the bat, talk about trying to build a sovereign citizen narrative. First of all, he starts his questioning by asking the guy if he's on duty right now, trying to establish the whole, well, we're paying who paid your salary? He said that, like he's supposed to say the people. Okay, right? They'd like build that whole narrative. But then when that didn't work, he starts going on the whole, well, the state can't prosecute me because they're not the victim, right? But the victim can't testify against you because they're dead. So there's no plaintiff, so you can't do anything. Now he's going to start saying that this guy he can't do what he's doing because he's addressing the jury. Like, how come you're looking at somebody who's not the person who asked you the question? Because he wants to make sure the jury clearly hears his answer, so he's addressing it to the jury. Like, like someone who's maybe testified before because he's an officer and they do that. That's part of the deal. This guy's dumber than a rock.
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
So in the video, it's kind of hard to hear everything that was said when you pulled over and interviewed the three individuals. Can you give a little more commentary on what was actually said?
Can you clarify exactly?
What exactly were you told by the three individuals that you pulled over to interview?
I don't remember or recall exactly what all three individuals said to me, as 1078 and the screams for help by other officials over the radio were directing my attention to figure out what was also going on downtown. What I recall hearing from these individuals is that one of the individuals that was not Erica indicated that their friend had been in a fight or an altercation. So that's when I decided to pull over to try to get more information out of them. Erica, told me that nothing happened, that there was just a verbal altercation, that she wanted nothing to happen and she just wanted to leave. That's when another one of the individuals said, Erica, you need to report what happened. And she still didn't want to. And that was basically about the extent of it when I just tried to get her name as these calls over the radio were coming for whatever was happening downtown that was unbeknownst to me at the time.
So would it be fair to say that you do recall the commentary of the interview?
I'm sorry. Now I will object as argumentative, Your Honor.
Sustained. What I would say, Mr. Brooks, is the use of the word commentary mischaracterizes the evidence. It's argumentative.
So it would be fair to say that you do recall what was said after already saying you don't recall.
I object. It's argumentative.
Sustained. Rephrase your question.
Well, at least he was real well prepared.
It would be fair to say that you responded to a fight at Frame Park, possibly involving a knife. That'd be fair to say.
That is what the initial dispatch was, yes.
Um, was any knife recovered from that scene, or
I did not recover a knife. No,
did you see anybody with a knife?
I did not see any individual with a knife.
Did you learn who reported that there was a knife involved?
I do not know the subject's names that actually reported the incident, no.
From your recollection, sorry. Just 1 second. From your recollection, was Erica Patterson being cooperative with the information that she gave you?
Erica Patterson was not being cooperative with the information she was giving me, no.
Do you recall if the male individual reported any information to you?
I believe I heard a male's voice during the time that I was flagged down. I don't recall what information he told me directly.
But there was 3 individuals that you interviewed at that time. Would that be fair to say?
There were 3 individuals present at the time I was flagged down, yes.
And one of them was a male. Would that be fair to say?
Correct, yes.
But you don't recall him relaying any type of information to you at that time?
I remember hearing a male's voice. I don't remember what information that specific person told me at that time.
Just so we're clear on the record, how long did you conduct that interview? Would you say, was it a couple of minutes or?
I'd have to look directly at the squad video for an exact timestamp, but I would say it was in the vicinity of 1.5 to 2 minutes.
After you interviewed those 3 individuals, did you later gain any more information of the incident that you were investigating at that time?
I did not gain any further information regarding the specific fight that I was initially dispatched to, no.
One of the other inmates should tell him, would it be fair to say that I'm about to beat your ass?
And just so we're clear for the record, you did not talk to the plaintiff about testifying.
Objection.
Vague. Sustained.
Did you say vague? Were you contacted in any way by the plaintiff to testify here today?
Objection irrelevant.
Sustained.
Do you know if there's even a plaintiff in this matter?
I was contacted by the Waukesha County District Attorney's Office to testify in this case.
Do you know if that's the plaintiff in this matter?
Generally, in a criminal case, the plaintiff would be the state of Wisconsin. That is my assumption in this case, that the plaintiff is the state of Wisconsin.
So the state of Wisconsin is the plaintiff in this matter, to your knowledge?
That would be correct, yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Do you have any redirect?
Just very brief.
All right. So again, always talking about this example. And again, for anyone who joined us later, Luna, hi, welcome. Uncle Artie, good to see you. Jim Hughes, so many great people. I always got the best fans, man. I love it. So anyway, for those of you who missed the beginning, the whole reason I wanted to cover this trial specifically is because there are so many instances where sovereign citizens or frauditors or anyone with this basic type of philosophy will argue their points, and I'll always say, well, but you're talking about traffic citations, but if you're telling the truth, if you're right, then what happens if there's a murder? Oh, well, that's just a made-up scenario, blah, blah, blah. So this is real. This is a real case. This is a real guy. This is really happening, and he's using the same arguments. He's saying that the court has no jurisdiction. He's saying that the state can't be a plaintiff because what, you're going to resurrect the dead bodies and have them testify against you that you ran them over? He's arguing all this nonsense, just crap. It's all garbage. It's all nonsense. It's all pointless sovereign citizen junk. It's word salad. And he's actually trying to use it in court on a murder trial. This is insane. Oh, man. And he thought that was a mic drop moment. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Like, oh, he just admitted that the state is the plaintiff. Yeah, I got him. No more questions, Your Honor. The one time he didn't get cut off by the judge, he actually got to finish his questioning, and he finished it with the plaintiff is the state, right? So what is that? So what is that? Like, what? Oh my goodness. He hasn't made an argument yet. Okay, yes, but he's trying to lay the groundwork for what he's going to argue, and he's trying to lay the groundwork for an appeal. He's already made that clear during the pretrial hearing. He specifically said that that was his plan, to either get this case dismissed due to a lack of subject matter jurisdiction, or to get this case dismissed due to the state being the plaintiff and not an individual, or to provide all the information that the judge and everyone were being unfair to him so he could use that in an appeal. I mean, he laid that out in the pretrial hearing specifically, that those are his plans. And his defense is what he's trying to lay the groundwork for the defense, that he wasn't the guy driving, that he beat up his girlfriend, got in the car, drove into a gas station, and then a different red SUV with an identical twin of his, I guess, drove through and murdered all those people with his car. So she was right down the street right after that happened. And all of this stuff about whether she lied or this or that or whatever, like, I can see this because I've been alive. I've lived my life. I've seen things. I've experienced things. And I've seen people after those types of situations, especially people that are like in a, you know, volatile relationship, right? You get in a fight, you fight all the time, you argue, whatever. And then someone pulls up and cop is there. Hey, she was with her friends. Her friends are like, hey, officer, come here, come here. And she's all shy, I don't want to talk about this. What happened? Nothing. Don't worry about it. And her friends are telling her, come on, tell him what happened. Tell him what happened. Don't let this jerk keep getting away with this nonsense. That's what it was. But meanwhile, he's getting all these calls on his radio. People are getting run over by cars right down the street. And okay, someone got hit by a car. Oh, that's bad. Wait, 2 people got hit. Oh, wait, 15 people? Oh, listen, lady, I don't know, 30 people. Okay, I got to go. What's your name? Like that's what happened. We saw it. We saw the footage. That's it. So it's not like she was making insane, And that's the other thing too with the 76. It's 77 counts actually. I love that because like when this whole thing first started and I was watching it and my kids were asking me some questions like 77 counts. It's like, well, the idea is that this guy is not getting out of prison. It's not going to happen. And if he's found not guilty on 10 counts, he's still got 67 other ones. 20 counts? 30? He's got 77, 40, 50. He's found not guilty on 60 counts. He's still got 17 left. Like, there's no way he's ever getting out again unless they could prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he wasn't driving the car. But during the testimony today, they showed a still from a video where as he's driving, he looks and they got a shot of his face on somebody's cell phone that was recording the parade. So, but again, he's got a beard and he's got a hoodie on and he's got hair, so he can make the argument. But he just keeps falling back on this sovereign citizen nonsense. And it's the whole idea that it wasn't clear. That's what I'm saying. He could make an argument about that. But of course, him being the idiot that he is, he's going to make an argument about the state isn't a plaintiff or there's no subject matter jurisdiction or court can't prosecute me because you're trying to prosecute Darrell Brooks, but that's in all caps and I'm not Darrell Brooks in all caps, so you can't prosecute me. He used that argument as well. He's been using it. He's trying to lay the groundwork for everything. In other words, he didn't even plead not guilty. It was the same thing that these idiots do with the traffic tickets. In the pretrial hearing and the arraignment, he didn't enter a plea because he's not the all caps name, and therefore he's not going to enter a plea because he's not going to give up his right to an attorney and he's not going to give up his right to have an attorney and he's not going to give it. So whenever that happens, what does the judge do? They enter a plea for him and they take it to trial. That's how it's always done. But again, this isn't a stupid traffic ticket. This is serious, serious shit. And he's just fluffing it off like, oh, that's all right. I'll get out of this because I'll get this case dismissed, no problem. And there's so many, and it is true. It is true. If he actually had a good attorney, maybe he wouldn't get off, but he could make so many arguments. There are so many things, and this just illustrates to a greater extent his stupidity, because every time he makes an objection, it's to something stupid. And there are legitimate things that a legitimate lawyer would be objecting to. There are pieces of evidence that a legitimate lawyer would be able to get into, but he's not bringing any of that stuff up. And it's crazy. Like, it would have been insane if there was a frauditor filming the thing and got hit. And, who knows what would have happened there. But did he bleed? I don't think so. I don't know. Was David trying to say that this guy didn't do it? He said that he thinks he did it, but David's always going to take the other side because that's what he does. Well, that's the other thing too. Like sometimes it's frustrating to watch him go through all this nonsense and say all this nonsense and getting away with all this nonsense. And it's like, well, what's the point? What's it about? Why is he doing this? And ultimately, I think the prosecution is kind of letting him just go off on these tangents because they know, because he already made it clear during the pretrial hearing that he's going to appeal whatever decision they make, that they're kind of like giving him enough rope to let him hang himself. Like he said all this stupid crap in court. Oh, man. Yeah, the next week's testimony is going to be great. I can't wait till he actually testifies. It's going to be really crazy. All of the things that he's saying is just so, I mean, it's ridiculous. Oh, man. Anyway, in the pretrial hearing and all of it, it's like, even if, like, let's just give the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that that's what happened, that his argument is true, that he got in a fight with his girlfriend, he pulled into the gas station, and then somebody else in a completely different red SUV drove through the parade, and it wasn't him driving. Let's assume that was true. You don't go into court for a murder trial and talk all of this sovereign citizen nonsense if you're trying to prove that you weren't the guy in the car. You stick to trying to prove that you weren't the guy in the car, not to trying to prove the court doesn't have jurisdiction and that the state can't be a plaintiff and all this other absolute nonsensical garbage. But the idiots on the internet have him convinced that this is the way it works, and now he's going to it. James Freeman should be watching this trial. Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind should be watching this trial, because this is what happens. This is what happens. I always say, well, what if it was a murder? What if it was well, here we go. Now we got one, and this is really happening. It's no longer just an example that I made up. It's real now, okay? They should be the ones paying attention to this and trying to learn why. The argument that I always make, you guys are wrong because if this happens, you guys are wrong because if this happens. Well, now here's the proof on display for the whole world to see. Yeah, talking about the capital letters. So, okay. So he gets in his SUV and he drives through the people in the parade. He mows down the dancing grannies. He mows down the Catholic charities. He mows down the high school marching band. But none of that matters because my name on my driver's license is written in all caps, so you have to let me go. Seriously? Oh. Like, that's his argument. That's his argument. He's so stupid. He's so stupid. He's so stupid. Oh, man. So, yeah, there's no death penalty in Wisconsin. So he's going to have to spend the rest of his life in agonizing pain. And this seems like, considering what happened to Dahmer in Wisconsin once he went to jail. Whoa, wait a minute. LJ, that's insane because I just watched that like day before yesterday. That's awesome. Great reference, dude. I dig it. But yeah, it's old port. I think there's fringe on the American flag. He'd object to that. Yeah, he actually put the objection sign in his pants because he just literally objected to everything. Um, this guy is so horrible. This trial is so terrible. I'm definitely going to keep watching it and keep covering it. But again, I just wanted to come on here tonight and kind of just throw my 2 cents in. And, because a lot of people are covering it and talking about it and the fact that he's a sovereign citizen. But again, for me specifically, it's always been, like I said, this story. Hey, you guys are making these arguments about jurisdiction and about all caps names and this and that. But what if it was a murder? What if it was a murder? What if it was a murder? And now here we go. It's multiple murders with a vehicle running over people during a parade. And what happens? You can't throw me in jail for murdering people because my name's written in all caps. You can't throw me in jail because you don't have subject matter jurisdiction. You can't throw me in jail because the state can't be a plaintiff. All of those things people use as an excuses to get out of paying a ticket. Now he's trying to apply to this. So why on our end are we trying to fight these idiots? Well, look at the message they're spreading and look at how these idiots are using it now as an excuse to murder people, or as an excuse to get away with it. They think that they're going to get their case dismissed. It's like, I don't know if you guys watched Troll earlier. He was talking to Val Venus, and Val was talking about like how he thinks there should be anarchy, and the government shouldn't do anything to anybody ever. And let's see, he was talking about like taxes and regulation and whatever. He was talking about how if there was no government, everyone would be moral and ethical because it would just be the proper way to behave. So you think guys like this, if there was no government, would say, oh, well, I'm not going to drive my SUV through a crowd of people in a parade because there's no government anymore, so I have no reason to. And then if there was no government and there were no cops and all that stuff was gone, and he did that, what happened? He drove the SUV home after that, pulled over, and went inside his house. And it was through the police investigation and being able to put information together that they figured out where he was and get him, right? So if he just did that where there was no government, no cops, no nothing, what would happen? All the people that were in the parade would die, and that's it. Maybe he'd go beat up his girlfriend again the next day. Who cares? Nobody's there to arrest him. So let him. Why not? That's a better world than the one we live in. Yep. Sure enough. Yeah. I wouldn't want people like you to sit on the jury. Okay. I was actually in Wisconsin when it happened. That was what initially got me into the idea of watching this trial. But as soon as I realized he was a soft set, I'm like, oh, man, I don't just have to watch this. I have to cover it because this stuff is insane. Yeah. Chili walked up to SGV News and he was like, hey, man, like he just assumed SGV News would know who he was. And SGV was like, who the hell are you? Get away from me. Well, he didn't say get away from me, but like he didn't know or care about delete laws at all. That was hilarious. But, I don't know. It's he thinks defenses are like spaghetti. Just throw everything at the wall and see if something sticks. Right? Anyway, that was basically what I wanted to say about that. So I just thought I'd hop on tonight and go over that a little bit. I love my fans so much, and seeing so many of my people here tonight makes me so happy because I'm used to seeing you guys in the morning. And anyone I didn't say hello to, what do we got? Luna Nights. Let's see, LJ sings I Am Back. I think Internet God, Leland Squirrels, always love you. Love all you guys. Even David, like Dag Nabbit. For those of you who don't know the background between me and him, when I started doing these lives, he was in a chat and he was disagreeing with everything I was saying, and one of my mods blocked him. So he actually sent me an email, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on? With these people blocking me? I didn't cross the line. I didn't say anything that was racist or sexist or blah blah blah. I just disagreed." And I'm like, you know what? First Amendment, all that good stuff. Yeah, you know what? That's fine. I'll unblock you and get you back on. So now it's like, yes. Hold on. I'm gonna, before I log out and wrap everything up, I do have to mention this because this is insane. I even said it in the chat. I went on panel, but because of the way the Frauditor Trolls interview with Val Venus went, there was no time to get everyone up there. So I just went up there and said goodnight and all that, whatever. But yes, Val Venus, his arguments were so bad that when he talked to Rogue Nation, I actually found myself taking Rogue Nation's side. Like, how bad do you have to be that I'm taking Rogue Nation's side? Just like the whole thing with Chili, right? How bad is Chili that I actually took Josh Abrams' side when he was going against him? There's some people that are just on a whole nother level of stupidity. David only wants to argue. Well, that's it. But like I said, it's. Am I going to be here tomorrow morning? Well, usually I only do mornings Monday through Friday. And tomorrow's Sunday, and on Sundays we always got a lot of stuff going on. Generally, the idea is I do in the morning before my kids wake up, and then once the kids are up, that's when I usually log out, and then I make breakfast, get them to school, do all that, and then at night, because I woke up early and I wake up early every day, I'll just do whatever I'm going to do to set up the show for the next day, and then go to bed. But on the weekends, like this, it's like there's nothing else going on right now. I'm going to pop up because I want to talk about this case. I have to talk about it. So I won't be here tomorrow morning. I might pop up. I don't know. Monday. Well, I'm definitely going to do Monday. I always do Monday through Friday, no matter what. But yeah. I mean, David's got a point, right? Technically, legally, in the United States, you're innocent until proven guilty, right? So we don't have to assume guilt. And I get that. Like, of course, for the most part, everyone knows this guy did it. But in all fairness, at this moment, the only thing I can absolutely guarantee that he's guilty of is being a sovereign citizen idiot. That's a fact, an undeniable fact. Anyway, I'm gonna log out now. Let me see. I got my Elvis gnome. I'll use him. This is becoming a thing because I always used to do my Elvis voice, and then I got this Elvis gnome. Did you see? I'm starting to add some Halloween decorations. I got a pumpkin I drew up there, pretty good. And then my son drew one. He was inspired by mine, and I'll show you his. And he's 8, so that's pretty darn good for an 8-year-old, I think. Anyway, so speaking of America. Yeah, I had Team Skeptic on just the other day. It was great. He was giving us a update on his European trip, telling some stories. I loved it. Love him. Love you guys. Thank you again for joining me. Always a great time. And I'll see you next time. And again, definitely, I don't know if I'll be doing anything tomorrow, but definitely Monday morning, 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. I always go live. And so, yay, I'm all shook up.